Okay, been a bit since the last update. Switching updates to monthly um, because weekly just isn't happening. Anyway, so couple of big changes. I had my first demo that went out to some friends and family, and it was, I mean, it was awful. Um, I mean, the game ran. It ran on both Mac and PCs. It ran on other people's machines. So that was like, in a way, that's a huge win. Um, but that might also be just dating myself back from the days when you couldn't take stuff like that for granted. Um, People were able to play it, and it highlighted a number of very interesting things. Um, so the thing on the right here, which used to look very different, it used to look much more like a train car um, compared to, like, this was the original train car texture, right? And then like these colors kind of sort of lined up with the colors of your Xbox buttons and stuff like that. Anyway, um, I wasn't sure if people were gonna like it, and the good news is that nobody disliked it, other than me. Um, the bad news is nobody other than me actually understood what it was supposed to do. And there were some like really stupid little things tied to that, right? Like this is not operational right now. It's kind of a mock-up. But I had like the coins up here next to this little bar that was filling up. And instead of coins, I had like a gem icon because that was available. And now I have the coins down here. Now if this icon is just a, I don't know if it's an emoji. It's just an extended ASCII set character, right? So this is not, calling this an asset would be bullshit. Um, and I'm changing to be more of like the dual stick control aspect, because what's important to the user isn't that this signifies that it's a train. What's important to the user is that they understand how to use these controls, right? Instead of having a cost on each of these little options, as you highlight the options, it will show below how much you're going to spend to achieve what that option is. Um, Also, coins that you pick up turn into coins up here, and it's a much more simple, consistent view. And the other thing that was missing was that there wasn't really a feedback mechanism to show um, what happened when I clicked this button, right? So yeah, sure, one of these little train wagons, and you could get up to a very large number of train wagons, would change. So by having like a second camera view up here, I can actually like show that train wagon change. So that is a big difference. Um, so those are like some of the initial pieces of feedback. Like, there really needs to be a little bit tutorial level. I'm coming to terms with the fact that there has to be tutorial level. That needs to be instated. But the first big gap was that it wasn't intuitive enough. Right? You didn't have everything clearly tied together from a understanding how the controls work perspective. I things weren't lining up enough. Instead of this art down here, I mean, probably shouldn't call it art. Instead of whatever these things are down here, what I'm probably thinking of doing, we'll see how the FPS behaves, is to actually use the same trick here and create like a side view of every wagon and put those in here instead. Um, I don't know how that's gonna work out. I have no idea. Like, part of my brain says like shoving this view up here halves my FPS. I don't know if that's actually gonna be true or not. But I think I'm gonna change this out to actually provide a literal real-time view of your train, with some of it being grayed out and then the active wagon showing up here. And that will also reduce the need for 2D assets for my 3D wagons. And kind of like simplify the overarching setup a little bit. Anyway, that's where things are at. Highly recommend getting feedback from people. In my particular case, the feedback was not positive, and that's fine. Because instead of figuring out how to polish this all up, I'm going for a much lighter weight solution, which is like, hey, I'm targeting controller first, and then I will support mouse and keyboard. I think that this for a mouse interaction area is fine, as long as this is WASD. This can be WASD. This you can use a mouse for, and that should work fine. It should be pretty easy to operate that way. You can still click wagons down here if for whatever reason you just don't want to click through this. But we'll deal with all that stuff all later. Overall, definitely much slower the last 4 weeks. Part of it was Path of Exile had a really league launch, so that ate probably a week, maybe 2. And my wife was out of town for a week, so I was solo papa. That also ate a lot. Work was absolutely insane. There was some cold, some flu, some other stuff. And then there was just the emotional funeral of realizing that my user interface sucked. Yeah. Is this better? I don't know. But this is definitely more in line with people's expectations. And I can tie the feedback much more together. Right? By you change this tower, you see that tower change up here. I'll probably need to create like some dust clouds or something to cover up the fact I'm just switching out one texture for another. But that still is going to make it much clearer as to what you're doing on the train. And kind of have that feedback mechanism in there. This also, the radial wheel is nice, right? Because it offers me more options, right? I'm not hard locked. Like right now it's set to 9 options, but I'm not hard locked to 9 options. Is it set to 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 options. But I could go to 9. I could go to 10. I mean, navigating forwards and backwards on the train is not going to be great, and I'll need to be much better about rotating it and looking at the screen like it looks like this part is lower than that part, so I don't have things properly rotated, things like that. Yeah, that's gonna be part of the fun. But yeah, I think this is gonna be a much better way forward. I think it also, from a controller-centric perspective, I think that this is gonna be pretty clean, where people immediately associate this type of control with the way that this game is played, right? So yeah, I think that in a way, huge step forward, and in a way, just a lot of realization of how far off my initial version was. I think that's the best way to look at it. But I'm kind of excited. Like I have a path forward. I also have figured out how actual user interface controls and stuff like that work. This is this form factor is for Steam Deck. I think I'm gonna target that. I have resizing semi-working, or maybe I don't work with it at all. Resizing might not work at all anymore. Can I make it wider? Yeah, it just stretches it right now. I had resizing working at one point. I need to rework on that. But yeah, it's I think it's gonna be much better with the initial round of feedback. Hope for the next month. I'm gonna switch to monthly. Get the user control refactor done. Get this to be like the camera, live camera view of the terrain. Really take the initial feedback to heart and focus on just getting that initial gameplay loop much tighter. And then I think it's more important to start introducing a tutorial level than it is to add the first boss from a gameplay perspective. So I will be targeting that instead before I probably am gonna spend too much effort on the boss. We'll see how it works out, because coding a boss seems like a lot more fun than coding a tutorial level. But I've been learning up around tutorial levels and how those things interact and how you can make them more engaging. But yeah, right now we're just focusing on getting these parts done. Anyway, hopefully another month, another demo, and see what the feedback is.